I'm Gwendolyn Sterk of Sterk Family Law, and I'm honored and privileged to have Margo McDermed, the state rep for the 37th District, here with us. And that you're the rep for our office. So
that's right, Gwen.
Yeah. So you are us. That's how I say. You are the trustee, the person representing us. But we want to talk about a very tough subject today called human trafficking. Can you explain to people what it is?
Well, this is imprisoning someone against their will. You know, we think of it often, and we see it most often in the media portrayed as men trafficking women, but it's not always women.
No, that's correct. It can be men, it can be children, it can be various different, situations. And we have that program Building Hope for the Future. We've been trying to educate the public about this, and I know that the state has been taking some steps to the extent that they can to try to make sure that there's some kind of remedies. And I know that recently for 2019, the issue of the statute of limitations was addressed. So can you tell us a little bit about what the state did for those civil remedies against your human trafficker?
We extended the statute of limitations to 10 years because one of the things that we find is that it takes victims a long time to recover from the trauma of being imprisoned like this, having their will taken away from them, and that it might take that long for someone to be able to have the self-confidence and rebuild their life in such a way that they can proactively go and seek compensation.
Right. Now, if they were a minor when it occurred, that extension is even further, correct?
That's the 10 years starts when they become 18.
Which is really important as well because, there is this increase and there's a number of children that are victims of this as well.
That's correct. We believe that the average age of someone who's trafficked is 13. That's shocking.
That's just shocking. And so one of the things I wanted to talk about is the fact that in our community, it doesn't happen here in the 37th District. You think?
We know that it does.
It does, right. But we all have this misconception that it's not in our home, it's not in our backyard. It happens either in another country or it happens in another neighborhood or in another situation. But that's not the truth or the reality.
I think that we watch TV and we think that it's in California or it's in New York, but it's actually everywhere.
Right.
And because of O'Hare Airport, Chicago is actually a major trafficking area.
Well, and think about
our
district.
Right here.
Route 80.
Yeah.
Right?
It's right here in our area. And I think people need to have their eyes opened to what's going on right here.
Absolutely. And in addition to that, with that age being the average age of 13, I also think that parents need to be more alert of it. Because they don't know. They cover themselves and they give their kid a phone. They think the kid's going to be innocent, right?
It's shocking when a suburban person, young woman, young man, gets involved with internet predators. And the next thing you know, they're meeting this person at a mall or in a public place somewhere, never to be seen again. This actually happens here in this area. And we think that it only happens to other children somewhere else.
Other children, right, or
bad
kids.
Whether it happens to a child here in the 37th District or any of the other 117 districts in Illinois, it's the wrong thing to have happen.
And one of the things I want to urge parents to do, and we at Sterk Family Law have a Facebook page as well as on our own website, we have posted a list of some apps that you can take out as a parent to make sure you're monitoring your children's phones. Literally, people want to say, well, these kids want to be independent. They want to have their own privacy. But that's scary because the predators are right there. They're looking at their pictures. A kid just is experimenting and they're taking pictures of their breast and sending it to their quote unquote new love of their life, right? And yet the new love of their life might have been somebody they met on the internet who is involved in human trafficking.
Well, and because of the internet, someone who looks and seems like a trustworthy person or a person of their own age is actually not, but is an older, savvy predator that's preying on the youth and inexperience and gullibility of a child. Right. And that's how they make their living. And as a parent, we need to protect our children from their own vulnerability and lack of experience.
And the other thing that I would urge everybody, is one of the things we learned during the HOPE event is if you see it happening, call somebody, call the police, call the FBI, report the instances that you see because you never know what might be happening. And I think that we sometimes as citizens look the other way and we have a duty. Wouldn't you agree?
It's always easy or it's and sometimes you're even out of the situation before you realize it was not an appropriate situation. Something was wrong about it, and 30 minutes later, you're like, oh my goodness, was that really what I saw? So I think we need to be more alert and more cognizant of that, and not to think, oh, I didn't really see that. Well, yeah, you might really have seen that.
Right. Now, we talked about it earlier, but the fact is that Illinois does have laws on the book that prevent this, that make it a crime. You're doing everything that you can, but it also takes that element of law enforcement. So tell us about that and what you're seeing with regard to.
Well, for many years, even before I joined the General Assembly, there's been a law on the books saying that there's going to be a victims' compensation fund. And here's the thing, for people who have been victims of trafficking, there's no money in the fund because actually none of the traffickers have been arrested and fined under this law. So there are many laws, but trafficking is a very insidious thing because the victims of trafficking don't have the power to get away or to alert people to the situation that they're in. Often they have no way to communicate. They may not be speaking English. They are never allowed to be in an unsupervised situation. And so it's a difficult problem to address.
Right. But it is one that we have to talk about, we have to be aware of, we have to educate our children about, and we have to put those safeties in place. Everybody is vulnerable. And I think that that's what the message is here today. And by having that alert, understanding what you're doing in the legislature, and talking about the subject, we can make headway, hopefully.
That's right.
So if you're out there today and you're hearing about this and you know that you've seen a situation or you know someone who has been a victim, there are organizations. You can reach out to our firm, you can reach out to Margo's office, and we can refer you to places to get help. So please take this call to action and do something about it, because there are things that have to take place. And if you have children, don't be that parent who doesn't take the time because you're too busy to make sure that the social media and the contacts that are occurring on those types of pages aren't being monitored. It's okay to exercise tough love with your kid, right?
Absolutely. You have to protect them when they're being manipulated.
That's right. And they're innocent. Sometimes they don't see it.
No.
And then the parents are upset about it later. Why didn't I see it? So that's our call to action today. Let's all open our eyes and let's all see it. Thanks for listening today, and thank you so much for coming out on this important topic.
Thanks, Gwen.